supply and demand is definitely lifting prices up from the ranges that we've previously seen them in. There's definitely a sense that the pandemic restrictions are receding and that demand is really surging forward, particularly because despite supply chain issues, economic growth is roaring around the world. Now, there are definitely some signs that inflation could cause some of this economic growth to be tempered. Particularly high gas prices in Europe could definitely put a damper on some of that. But we've got a whole host of geopolitical considerations that are also acting on oil prices, as you mentioned. Tensions in the Ukraine are definitely helping to keep prices up now. So it is possible we could see prices spiking to $100 a barrel if we get that kind of magic mix of geopolitics, demand, supply at certain points during the year. Though I do think that the fundamentals reading is really not supporting sustained triple-digit prices.
It's interesting you call it a magic mix. And let's talk about some potentially one-off events, you know, like that fire on the pipeline between Iraq and Turkey that's briefly stopped flows. I mean, what's the potential impact of something like that?
Exactly. Well, when you have a situation where supply and demand is already kind of tight, we're seeing in all sorts of oil stores around the world, we're seeing that stores are below the 5-year average. So when you're in a situation like this, and then you have an event, say a drone attack on the UAE or a fire on an oil pipeline, turned out it was caused by a falling electrical pole and the issue was corrected. But, you know, initially the thought was obviously terrorism. And so there's the potential for, say, you know, 400,000 barrels a day of oil to come offline for any period of time. That's going to jack up prices. Now it's been resolved, but this kind of incident reminds traders in the market that the potential for these kinds of incidents is there. And, you know, we can't necessarily anticipate what they will be or when they will hit.
What about the impact of going green on oil prices? And do you anticipate maybe a reluctance to invest in oil because of the energy transition?
Yeah, this is a big issue in the United States. We're seeing a lack of desire on the part of oil companies, particularly in the fracking areas, to invest in really growing production at the same rates that we saw previously. And part of that definitely has to do with a concern about regulations, climate regulations, energy transition policies, lack of investment coming, lack of desire from banks to lend money for these kinds of projects, despite the fact that with high oil prices, there would be a strong return on investment.
Ellen Wald, always great talking to you. Thank you very much. We're going to be looking out for those magic ingredients all at once. See, keep an eye on oil prices, Jamie.